which are often called harmonizing, warming, removing therapy, supplementing or tonification, and what the source that I'm called reducing, or what I also call clearing key blood stagnation issues. Basically, right there, what I was quoting from, the manuals that in the East-West Herb course, I went to school and received my certification from the East-West School of Planetary Herbology that's based in Ben Lomond, California, run by the Tierras and their amazing staff and teachers. And I often refer directly to their texts for specifics, particularly something of this nature. The 8 methods of herbal treatment. I often have to go back and just even remind myself what, as I'm preparing an herbal formula or a poultice or ointment, I need to periodically refresh. What did I leave out? It's very important to include sweating for particular formulas, and I discussed that last week. But today we're talking about, and I want to run through these so that you have a sense of the types of things and the basis for a lot of the herbal teas and a lot of the treatments that I've talked about in the maintenance section. When I've gone through each of the decades and the additional add-ons that I've talked about, those incorporated these principles. So harmonizing. One of the principles in harmonizing is it's really good to use certain herbs that help other herbs do their job. And a lot of times, and not that they can't stand alone, but one of the ones that constantly referred to is licorice root. Licorice root, if used only in a very small amount, can help because of its key stabilizing attributes and harmonizing attributes. It helps pull together the other herbs in the formula so they work well. Jujube dates are often looked on as a similar thing, as is cardamom. Not that they don't have their own abilities, but they work really well with other herbs to help achieve the goals intended. So harmonizing is often a part of putting together a really good tea, a really good, useful herbal formula or ointment. Warming is a very, very important concept. If someone is experiencing an aggravated reaction to cold, that can indicate a number of things. It can be treated simply just with warming stimulants like ginger or cinnamon, but in additional cases, if it's been there for a little bit, if you're suddenly experiencing that, wow, I'm really reacting to cold, and my legs feel cold, and I feel cold, and I don't usually feel that way in this kind of weather, that should be treated. And there are herbs to really increase the warming temporarily, because that's a yang deficiency. For whatever reason, the yang in your system needs it's like if a battery's run out and you need to just give it a jolt, and it works fine after you've done that. Well, that's what I'm talking about here for maintenance. That can happen. It's just a part of weather change, or let's say right as winter hits, you also, get some bad news. So you get hit by something emotionally right at the same time cold hits. Your system just may need a sudden jolt. Romania 8 is often considered a warming formula. It has prepared aconite, which is a very warming herb, and it has to be prepared correctly. But if you get Romania 8 in pill form, the aconite is prepared correctly, and it can really help get you past and get the body back to feeling warmer. Cold conditions, cold symptoms need to be paid attention to. So warming is very much a part of herbal treatment. Alternately, the removing therapy, the clearing of heat. Let's say you're having a lot of night sweats, or you have an internal infection. You've got herpes, you've got hepatitis. Now that's a chronic condition, and I'll be talking more about that in chronic situations. But the reason it sort of folds into maintenance is, let's say you do have herpes and you've had it for 10 years, and it at a point can be treated almost like you would a maintenance approach, because you can, if you talk to an herbalist, they can make sure that the heat created by that, or even hepatitis, clearing the heat just on a regular basis, because it does cause internal heat, is just a part sort of your maintenance. You can stay on top of it so that it doesn't impact the rest of your system and doesn't get too extreme, so that the liver is impacted too strongly. So that's why when you're clearing heat, there can be a lot of different, you can have a little bit of stagnation as girls reach their menstrual cycle. That creates stagnation in the liver. You clear stagnation, and I'll talk about that's the last principle, clearing stagnation. But heat can be caused by eating too much meat. Your heart can be hot because you have a little bit too much heat from little bits of blood stagnation around the heart. Clearing heat is important. So there are different herbs often used for heat clearing. Burdock is an excellent one. A very gentle one that even pregnant can use is dandelion. It clears internal heat. It's an anti-inflammatory. Marshmallow is very gentle, and it can be used often, and it's a great anti-inflammatory. Let's say you exercise too much and you've been really out hiking and your muscles are screaming at you. There's heat related to that. So heat clearing and using burdock or dandelion or marshmallow or echinacea or red clover can all, and these all are what are called alternatives, they can all help clear inflammation and other forms of heat on a very gentle basis. The next one that I'd like to talk about is what's called tonifying. All right, sort of like it's on the opposite of clearing heat, but it's somewhat simpler to adding herbs to help warm. Tonifying, in the principles of herbal formulas, you often, even if you're clearing heat, if you're having to use sweating herbs, if you've got a lot of inflammation in an area because someone had, a bad fall skiing and you're working on a given area, then you would be using sweating, you'd be using removing any heat clearing necessary. But you'd also need to make sure that at the same time you don't go too far at clearing stuff, and that you don't reduce qi, yin, blood nourishment, yang balance over where they need to be. So this is sort of a fundamental principle. If I'm working with someone, or any medical herbalist is working with someone, and they recognize they need to clear a bunch of heat, either, let's say, heat around the heart, or heat related to hepatitis, or any form heat related to gallbladder inflammation, you've got to clear heat. But in addition, you need to also pay attention to tonification. Now, that can be done either at the same time as the herbal formula, or sometimes if a person is really needing real attention to heat clearing, then you can clear the heat, but then right after you need to tonify. So it's important to also make sure that you're not disrupting the qi and blood nourishment and yin and yang levels, or in Ayurvedic, the pitta and dosha, the vata, and the kapha balance. You have to make sure those are maintained. So sometimes either at the same time or following the use of a clearing, removing therapy of herbs, you would then prescribe herbs like ginseng or astragalus or codonopsis, all which help to increase qi. You would nourish blood a little. You'd make sure that the blood nourishment was strong, such as dangi is an excellent one, prepared Romania, peony root, they're all excellent. And yin tonification is very important. I've seen more problems related to yin deficiency than practically anything. Blood nourishment comes right up behind it, but yin deficiency is a constant problem in our culture. Chronic burnout is from just the stress of work, from the type of culture we have. So yin needs you may need to make sure that you're maintaining yin. And that can be a number of different approaches. So yin, like asparagus root, Ophiopogon, Glenia, lychee berries are excellent. Prepared Romania that I've already talked about is excellent. Cornus is excellent. So these are the types of herbs you also need to have from the standpoint. And finally, not to forget the very last principle, the reducing therapy or the clearing of congestion related to blood stagnation or qi congestion is the final principle that's also very important. And I'll quickly just mention for this, you've got to make sure that you're addressing stagnations, tumors, ulcers, stagnant blood, obesity, abnormal swellings like edema. And there's various ways to approach this, but some of the types of herbs that are used for it include the seaweeds, include ligusticum, frankincense, dangi, myrrh. These are all clearing of congestion herbs that are excellent. So those are the 8 methods, the 8 principles of herbal treatment, and respect them. And they go into herbal formulas and into ointments and are prevalent throughout all this. So I'm done. Thanks again to MCAT, and you all have an excellent week, and I'll be talking to you next week. Okay, take care.